Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Dental Hygiene Basics podcast. My name is Dana. I'm your host, and we are here with the incredible Amber Lovatos. Hi, Amber. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And we're going to start with just my favorite question, which is, what's your RDH origin story? I know you have a great story. So how did you get into wanting to become a dental hygienist?
Yeah. Do you want like my full oral care story? Do you want
Yeah,
that?
give me the full spiel. Yeah, I'm here for it.
So I'm first generation Mexican American. My parents immigrated here before I was born. But I always like to tell people about my parents and their upbringing too, because it plays into like my life. And so my dad was essentially an orphan. He started working for his food on the streets of Reynosa, Mexico at 9 years old. Okay. And my mom had one underwear. Okay, so like one underwear that she would wash every day. So I like to ask people, if you think about that, if you think about the fact that my mom had one underwear and that my dad had to work for his food at 9 years old, like, do you think that they had floss?
Yeah.
No, right?
Well, I said yes, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Like they did not have floss. They didn't know that floss was a thing, right? And so naturally, our parents will teach us the things that they know, right? And so my parents didn't know the things that they didn't know. And so they didn't know how to teach us to brush and floss with the importance of oral health. They didn't have access to dental care, right? And so as a consequence, that I developed a lot of dental problems. The first time I went to the dentist, I was probably like 13 years old. I had holes in 19 and 30, and I was in extreme pain. That dentist told my parents that I needed root canals, which my parents could not afford. So instead, my parents took me home. My mom ground up cloves. We would mix it with water, and I would stick them into the holes of my teeth, and then I would try to sleep away the pain. That's after that I went to the dentist. I was 15. My cousin told my mom that the reason my teeth were so crooked was I had too many teeth. So what do you think the solution is to too many teeth?
Oh, no.
Yeah, oh no, exactly. So my mom sent me to Mexico, and with 200 pesos or $20 at that time, they extracted my maxillary permanent and healthy canines. So I do not have maxillary canines. I've had conversations with my mom about this since then. I'm like, did that first dentist not tell you about the resources available to your, yes, low income, but also American citizen daughter? I now work for a nonprofit that serves people who are low income and uninsured. I would have qualified for services at that clinic. Did that other dentist not tell us that extracting my teeth wouldn't make them straight? And she's like, but daughter, back then didn't educate you. And I don't know if I necessarily believe that either that first dentist didn't know about the resources available in the community, or they weren't communicating to my mom in a way that she understood. My mom only speaks Spanish. And if they were speaking to her in Spanish, were they speaking to her in a Spanish that she would understand? Or were they speaking to her in a complex Spanish? My mom has a fifth, sixth grade education. So if you're speaking to her in a very technical Spanish, she's not going to understand you. After that, the time I went to a dentist, I was 18 years old. At 17, I became a teen mom for the first time. I had my second son at 19. And in Texas, if you're low income and pregnant, you qualify for Medicaid. And so via Medicaid here in Texas, that was the first time that I received restorative or preventative dental care. 19 and 30 that I told you about, those had to be extracted. They were not restorable. So I don't have mandibular first molars. I don't have maxillary canines. I had root canals, I had onlays, filling, crowns. I've had all the things. I'm pretty sure I had some sort of periodontal therapy. And I say that because I remember as a young girl in the morning, I would wake up and there'd be blood on my pillow. I knew that wasn't normal, right? I mean, there was dried blood on my common shirts, and I knew that wasn't normal, but what's the point of complaining, right? Like, I know that I can't get care. It doesn't hurt. It's just blood. But I made the connection that after I received whatever hygiene service it was that I received, that went away. I no longer woke up with blood on my pillow. So since then, I became a dental hygienist, the first dental hygienist in my family. My sister also then became a hygienist, and my cousin who grew up with me also became a hygienist. Specifically, I worked in public health majority of my career. I've done a lot of outreach work. I've written a few books. Some of them are dental Spanish books, so teaching people basic dental Spanish. All of that driven by my upbringing, being a first generation, low income, Spanish first language speaker, being a teen mom, twice single mom, right now, like growing up in poverty, trying to find a solution out of that situation. And so I did not get into dentistry because I had a passion for dentistry. That wasn't it. I think my passion for dentistry came later, but it was because I think we follow who mentors us, right? Yeah. Like whoever guides you. And so in Houston, here in our community, there was a grant that they were giving to dental assistants. So you could take a test, and if you passed this test, you qualified to go through a dental assisting program, and the Harris County would pay for it. And so my cousin told us about that. They were assistants and they had gone through that. And so my sister and I, we went through that program. And while I was at my first job as a dental assistant, I met another dental assistant who had gone through the same program. We were same age, like 18 years old, first generation Mexican American, and like first everything. And she's like, we should become hygienists. And I said, okay. And we both became hygienists. And it's so shout out to Maxine Cordova. But also we both became public health dental hygienists. So I think it's kind of like telling that like this journey that we had together. But now I work for Curaprox. It is a oral care company. We're a Swiss-based company. We're national, but I am their professional engagement manager. And people are always like, so what do you do? I'm like, I do a little bit of everything, honestly. Yeah. I do some content creation. So a little bit of managing the social medias, and I manage our creators and the creatives, right? We have also like some guidance, obviously, from headquarters and stuff. But I also do like education to professionals, education to schools about us and our products. I do like our newsletters. I feel like I work in marketing. I work in like dental education marketing. Yeah, that's kind of been the journey.
I know. And I love your story. I mean, it's so good. And I know that there's a lot of people out there who will hear themselves in your journey and will know that I can do that. Like that same thing happened to me and I can do that. And I can go on to do all the amazing things that you have done in your career. And that's why I was like, okay, I want to know from start to here, how did you get here? I do want to talk just a little bit about like leading into dental hygiene school, maybe even in dental hygiene school, because like you said, first generation, you didn't have those resources. So getting into dental hygiene school, did you have any struggles or did you feel like that was pretty straightforward?
Oh, yeah. I mean, one, I didn't know like what to do, right? So I just started taking classes. I was working during the day, going to school at night, and that's hard. And I had two kids and I was a single mom, and balancing it all is hard. And I definitely took some classes I didn't need to take. So the journey took me longer. I also like didn't know like what was needed. It was me like figuring it out, like going to websites, of like how to apply, what do I need? So I definitely had some struggles. I am in a way very blessed. I'm decently smart. And I think that helped me, right? Because I had no like educational real background. Like I barely graduated high school. Truthfully, like I barely graduated high school. In order to get into community college, you had to take like some sort of test. So I went to Half Price Books and I bought myself a math book and I was teaching myself algebra. Like as I remember, I was like pregnant. I was like, oh, I need to like do something so I can get into like community college. I had zero background. So that was my struggle. It's not like the lack of my intellect, right? Yeah. It was that where other people were starting here, I was starting back here, right? And so I'm having to catch up and learn the things that they already knew. So then going into like even a basic like biology class, to them, they might have like had already had it in high school and I didn't have it in high school or not very well. Okay. Like I said, I barely graduated high school. So I think they just like gave me a diploma, honestly. I don't think I actually graduated high school, but it's on paper, it counts. But so for me, like I'm having to learn all of this plus what they're teaching. And so that was the struggle. I think if I went back to school now, I would be a much better student now. My brain doesn't work as fast as it did in my 20s, but like I have a better foundation now. And there was a foundation that I just didn't have. Right. And so there definitely were some struggles. Like I took physics. I failed physics. Like, why did I take physics? I don't know. But like I took it like zero science background. I was very good at math, but applied math. I did retake some classes. Like I wasn't your perfect student. When I applied though, I did try to make sure like if I did retake a class, like I retake a class. I made sure that like at least my science courses, I had, A's, and A's when I applied, I had to end up having some B's after like getting in. But yeah, there's definitely some struggles.
Yeah. And I'm sure those struggles didn't stop once you get into hygiene school. They were probably magnified, but thinking through maybe what were some of your biggest struggles in hygiene school and what would you tell a student who's going through those same struggles?
I think the hardest thing with hygiene school is everything that comes at you at once, right? Like I had a panic attack my first semester of dental hygiene school. And I remember you're just like overwhelmed. There's just like test after test after test after assignments, right? That first semester is so hard. And honestly, like figuring out like what works for you. But I remember I was like taking a nap and all of a sudden I woke up and my heart was racing and my blood pressure was really high. And I thought like I was having a heart attack. I don't know what a heart attack feels like. But that's what it felt like it was. I ended up going to the emergency room and they said I had a panic attack. So honestly, managing your mental health, it's so important. Like I think that's like number one, like you want to be number one, but really number one is your mental health. Okay. My class, I think was hard because my program fostered competition, honestly. And good program, but it did. Like in our handbook, it had like, here are all the awards that you can get. These are all the things that you have to do in order to get these awards, right? And so my classmates, and including myself, we were all very competitive with each other. So there wasn't that real community. And the other thing is that like also like you want to make friends, right? But maybe the way that you study and they study is not the same, like doesn't work. And so I think a lot of times students will go into like, I want to be in the study group because I want to make friends. But if you don't work the best in it, like you don't learn the best in a study group, then you're just hurting yourself. If you can figure out before hygiene school, like what's the best way that you learn and the best way for you to stay organized, I think especially like now with the resources of online, everybody's like, buy an iPad, don't buy an iPad, get a notebook, don't get a notebook, or like a planner, don't get like only you know yourself. So I would say like do what works for you. I'm still a paper girly, so I will still have my paper planner. An iPad probably wouldn't work for me. Like don't get like into all those pressures. Just figure out like what works for you and stick to that. Hygiene school is not the time to learn new ways of studying.
That is really good advice. Honestly, it's not. It's the time to perfect hopefully what you've already figured out in your prerequisites. But again, sometimes we don't figure it out. The frontal lobe has some developing to do. I know I was still getting there, and you have to shift and adapt to different classes. I love what you said about the study group. I was an independent study girly. Like I was not good with a group, but I could get with a group right before the test and just quiz. But I could not study with. I would not get anything done. Yeah. We're not
I
getting
was
anything done.
socialized.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, so you graduate. Yay, we're also excited. And then tell me a little bit about your career progression because I know you've mentioned you've worked in public health, like clinical. I know you've done a ton with your social media and now you're working for Curaprox. Like, just give us a quick outline. How did one go from the other?
Yeah, I got a hygiene school and really my mentality was like, I need to provide for these kids, so I need a job that pays,
Yeah.
right? And so I went to work in private practice and I hated it. I like did not, it just wasn't for me. I think maybe now things would be different, but back then it definitely wasn't for me. I had a hard time with like charging people for things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in the meantime, my husband was in dental school. Okay. I quit after like 3 weeks. It just like wasn't good practice. And then I started temping and I temped for a few years, like back and forth in Minnesota and in Texas. And then I got into education. In the meantime of all this though, I'm doing community outreach work. I'm doing free work in the community. I'm doing oral cancer screenings, sealant days, like book education. It's like going to schools. I was doing all the things like just free on my own time, not being compensated for anything, doing things with like a school for adults with Down syndrome, like all sorts of things. Okay. Like just serve my community because those things are things that made me happy. And so I'm temping. I get a job in education. I taught in a high school. I taught healthcare science in high school for a little bit. And then from there, I was recruited to teach at my alma mater where I worked. And eventually I became clinic coordinator of second year. And so I thought I would stay there forever and ever and ever. And then I was recruited to become a director of a nonprofit dental clinic. Okay. And I have already been volunteering at another nonprofit where I still volunteer since like 2015 and like working there on and off. But I became a director of this nonprofit and we did really, really great work where I would go and do outreach work using portable dental equipment and I would use it in a medical clinic. So I would see recare patients and using teledentistry. But at the same time, if the doctor had like a patient who had dental pain, I would come in and I would assess them and using teledentistry, we would communicate with the dentist and figure out like next steps for that patient. I like saw patients in, like I said, in schools doing sealants and doing exams. And, well, I would do the exams, but facilitating all of that. Yeah. And so then that was 2020 to 2022. And then my dad got cancer. And so I needed to take time off from working to focus on my dad. Like I couldn't do all the things,
Yeah.
right? And I did a lot of things and I couldn't do all the things. So I quit my job and became my dad's medical power of attorney. And that's when I started doing my social media. Like more seriously in 2022, I was like, all right, I started with 1,000 followers, I think in 2022. I had started kind of dabbling in like 2021. And now I'm at 57,000, I think. So it took some years, but
Yeah.
I've been working at it. I'm 57,000 on Instagram. But yeah, I did some outreach work with some other organizations that because they knew that I did outreach work already in the community, they hired me for like their companies to do outreach work. And that was really great. So for like 2 years, I didn't have like a permanent job, I would say, 22
Yeah.
to 2024 or ish. And then I'm kind of back working with the nonprofit I still work at San Jose. Shout out to them. Love them. They are my family. They're like my nonprofit family. But yeah, these last like 3 years, 2022 to now, 2026, I've been kind of like speaking and doing social media, selling my books, working at a nonprofit part-time. I went through IVF during that time and was on bed rest. And then I kind of needed a little bit more stability. I was like, I need a full-time job and I need some benefits. And I love being creative. And that's when this job like became about. And so that's how I feel like everything that I've done up to this point kind of led to this job that I have now. Because I also have a study club where we do a lot of like education and newsletters. And I'm like, okay, all of that like kind of leads into like what I do now and my creatives. And so I don't know if that was your question, but like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
No, my favorite thing about asking that question, especially for people who've had a very diverse career, right? You've done just about everything. I mean, I know that there's
yeah.
probably horizons that you're like, I still want to cross this one, or at least if you're like me, I'm like, there's still things I want to do and try. I mean, that's the joy of doing this. But I like for students to hear that whole progression. Like, you didn't wake up one day and become the education manager at Curaprox, right? It's like you went through all these other things, but I like how your journey shaped how you ended up here and how it's still playing a role in what you're doing day to day. And I really like what you said at first. You didn't love clinical. I was the same way. I really struggled to charge patients and public health. I loved public
I
health
love
for that
public health.
reason. Yeah, yeah. So if you're
Yeah.
one of those people, think about, okay, well, how can I get out there and get involved in public health? Maybe that might be a better fit for you if you're struggling clinically. And I
And
love that.
I see like in public health, what I love is we don't work with insurance. So I know insurance doesn't dictate our care, but I don't ever have to think about it. Like if my patient needs scaling replaning, my patient needs scaling replaning. If they had it last year and now they need it again, now they need it again. If they need to come in every 2 months, they come in every 2 months. Like it is what they need. I'm never having to think about like other things. Yeah. I love just being able to treat the patient and never that conversation with my patient about like, oh, you're just wanting to get money out of me. I know there's a lot of mistrust with professionals. We don't ever have that because they know that we're there serving. It's not always easy. I'll say the hard part about public health is that it can be very physically demanding. We're seeing those patients who have never been to the dentist and they're my age or older, or they haven't been in a really, really long time. They're medically complex. So all those like really hard class 3 patients that you're seeing in hygiene school, that's what we're seeing like on the daily. So I'm not seeing this like class 1 healthy pink gingiva or, brown gingiva, no bleeding patient. That's not what we're seeing. So physically, it's harder, but I love working with that patient population. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I know. And there's something to be said about just finding what feels right for you. You never have to be stuck. I mean, again, I look at your
Never
career
bored.
progression. Yeah, you're never bored. And I just look at your overall career progression. I just think, look at all the things that are available to someone who's interested. Even if you just think one part of Amber's story is interesting, you're like, I think I want to do that, right? But you've done everything. Well, I do want you to tell us a little bit about Curaprox, maybe like some of your favorite products. For me, I started hearing about Curaprox maybe, I don't know, gosh, it's probably been 5 or 6 years ago. And I got a beautiful orange toothbrush, which is my favorite color. And I was like, okay, I'm on to this. But I know it's maybe a product that people aren't as familiar with. So I would love for you to
Yeah.
just tell the students a little bit.
I think our products are very intentional. It's not just a toothbrush. It's not just an interdental brush. So what makes our toothbrushes different is the filaments. They're not just soft filaments. They're Curin filaments. So typically here in the US, toothbrushes are made with nylon. Ours are made with polyester. Polyester is hydrophobic. So it absorbs water slower, as that makes the bristles stable even when they're wet. It also means that they harbor less bacteria. And you're not thinking about the technology of bristles when you're recommending a toothbrush, like just a soft toothbrush. But it needs to be more than just a soft toothbrush. So ours has like hydrophobic filaments. They're also just really, really soft bristles. If you've ever tried one of the Curaprox brushes, they're very soft brushes. Nobody can say that we have hard bristle brushes. Our brushes are soft. That's because typically in the US, they have 500 bristles in the brushes. Ours, if you look on the handle, it'll have a number on that. That number will tell you how many bristles the brush has. So our main toothbrush has 5460. It's 5,460 bristles. Okay. So very, very thin bristles. It's also just very, very soft. They're rounded microscopically, so they're less likely to cause abrasion. Curin filaments are 73% less likely to cause abrasion compared to nylon filaments. So that's like, we're like, the big things is these are filaments, right? But also the fun colors, the octangle handle makes the angulation better. The other thing is our interdental brushes. Our interdental brushes, they are not one-time use. They last 1 to 3 weeks or until the bristles start to wear away. And then when they need to be replaced, you just replace the brush. You don't have to throw away the entire handle. Versus with others, you have to throw away the entire thing, and that creates a lot of waste. So it's less waste. We have some of the smallest interdental brushes on the market, very thin wire, but also very thin bristles also, so that you can get into smaller spaces, get into those concavity spaces for a better clean. But they also don't cause that blunting of the papilla of like old generation interdentals that have that very thick wire. Like if you've been in dentistry a long time, you have those thick wire ones. That's not what ours are. I think one of the coolest things is we have the first calibrated interdental probe. So you probe your patient horizontally and it tells you exactly what interdental brush size your patient needs. So if it like lands on a yellow, you know your patient needs a yellow brush. And as a hygienist working in clinical, you know sometimes you're just like guessing. I think you did this one, maybe this one. There's no guessing. We have the first color-coded autoclavable probe, but also for perio sizes and primary prevention sizes. So we don't recommend our interdentals just for people with perio, but for all patients, right? We shouldn't wait till a patient needs perio treatment for us to be like, oh, maybe flossing isn't working for you, or maybe you don't like flossing and us trying to force flossing on them, right? Giving them an alternative. Our products are very like thoughtful in like the way that we deliver them. And then for our electric toothbrush, my favorite thing is that you know what an end-off brush is. We have that, but it's called the single brush. Our electric toothbrush has a single brush attachment to it, and that can get around like for session areas. I have buttons like for my clear aligners that I never wear. So cleaning around my clear aligners, around your crowns, around the implants, it leads for a better clean. It's a sonic vibrating toothbrush, but with a small brush head. And if you've never tried it, it's a fantastic electric toothbrush. And I've tried every electric toothbrush on the market. So yeah, we have really great products. It's not just here's another toothbrush, here's another interdental brush. There's a lot of like technology and thought behind our products. So yeah, if you have never tried them, give them a try. Or invite us for a brush and learn. We'll to come and do a brush and learn for your office or for your school. We'll do that and we send product.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, students, if you're listening, this is the time where you learn about new products, right? Yes, you get out and you continue your education, but I remember being in school, starting to form some opinions, but also making recommendations to my patients. But I also remember being like, I don't know anything about different products. Right? Like you learn as you go. And so
Yeah.
these opportunities where you could have a brush and learn and get a product in your hand, feel it, see it, all of those things, it makes you a more well-rounded clinician because you're going to find the best product for your patients, right? We tailor everything to the patients. And well, first of all, I love the intentionality behind the brushes. And then I also really like that you guys have the probe because that is a big problem. You
It
don't
is a bit,
know what size interdental brush is going to
yeah.
fit for your patient. And if you have something that solves that, I'm like, genius. I love it. Love
Yes.
it.
Yeah. So this like box behind me over here, that's one of our old version of our boxes, but it comes with all like the interdental brushes you need. And then it comes with a probe. And we love that. Like you can autoclave it, but also the other thing is all of our systems are kind of connected. So like our probe can go into like a handle here. You would sterilize the probe, obviously, but like everything kind of connects. And I love all of that. But yeah, I started using Curaprox because of that, because of the probe. I had tried their toothbrushes before and I had their electric toothbrush, but my favorite thing was like, I can use this chairside and tell my patient because I can't give my patient every single color interdental brush, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I started with Curaprox was I was using their probe and yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. And I think even in Wilkins, I think Esther Wilkins, the textbook, to quote Esther Wilkins' textbook, I believe the research even shows like interdental brushes are more effective generally than floss, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. There is so much data, and not just like our data, but
Right.
research in general that says that interdental brushes are better. They're better because one, they go better into that anatomy space. They go into the concavities versus floss doesn't, right? Floss doesn't like, is it going to bend into the concavity? It gets down into that crawl space, which floss is not going to get completely under that crawl space, right? If you're giving them the correct interdental brush size. So if you're giving them a small brush size for a big space, that's not going to get into the cavities, right? So
Right.
that's why having like a probe, a calibrated system that tells you exactly which brush size they need is important. It's not just for like, let me not guess, but it's because you need something that's going to get into those spaces and clean it. And people are more compliant with it because it's easier to use. It's easier to go in with an interdental brush versus like C-shaped flossing. There is a study that was done and that said that flossing for caries prevention was only demonstrated in professionals, like professional flossing programs. So what does that mean? Like me and you know how to floss. We know how to do the C-shaped flossing. My boss likes to say like, but is your patient driving to you before they go to work so that you can floss them? No. right? So maybe our patients aren't lying to us when they're saying like, I am flossing, I am trying, and they're still having cavities. It's probably because of technique. Flossing is very technique sensitive, right? Because it's not getting into all those spaces. But there is tons and tons of data that shows that interdental brushes are superior to flossing in all levels, in gingival inflammation reduction, in plaque reduction, and yeah, it's in compliance. And so
Mhm. I know. I love
in
it.
hygiene school, we learn the opposite. I don't know, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember learning about interdental brushes, but I think the issue is the friction point. So there has to come a step between when you learn about something, like you just laid out all this beautiful information, and then you're implementing it. Well, I think the problem for a long time was the implementation because how do you know what size? You don't want to waste all this product trying to test sizes. So now you have a tool. So you have the thing that pushes you to implementation and makes it better. And I think that's amazing.
I mean, we have great products, not just because our procure products, but we truly have like, yeah, very thought out products that help you help your patients. And ultimately that's the goal. Like the reason I love this company is because we are very like science backed, but we're like, very patient first, education first. A unique thing I'll say about our company is everybody thinks that Curaprox is like really big here in the US. We're really small in the US. We're 8 people in the US, our entire team.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. That includes the warehouse guy. Okay. So like the four of us who are in leadership, I would say two of us are hygienists.
I love that.
And then it's like our CEO and then like a marketing data guy. And we don't really have we don't have a sales team. We have a sales like person who helps people with like sales transactions, but we don't have a sales team. We have dental hygiene educators. The company cares very much about education first, not necessarily selling you something. And I think that that's one of the reasons I love Curaprox because I'm not going to sell anybody, but educate them on things like how to prevent periodontal disease, right? How to prevent diseases like the ones that I had growing up, giving our patients the best tools, the things that work for them. Yeah, being very education focused is one of the things that I love. And then we have two hygienists.
Yeah, I mean that's like out of 8 people, two of them are. I'm
Yeah.
like that's pretty good odds. I love that. If a student wanted to become like a Curaprox educator, is that something that's on the table in the future or?
So we recently started our Brush and Learn program where we have oral health consultants. So they provide education to dental offices for us. And so the process for that though is we have a course, it's a 6-hour course called ITOP. If anybody's attending ADHA, you should attend ITOP. It's 6 hours of, we talk about oral systemic link. It's led by Lancet Van Gilder. She's a fantastic speaker. It's a really good course. It's hard to explain. It's more like a workshop, but it's 6 hours. And we go through different ways of providing home care. And that might sound like home care, like I know how to teach home care. No, it's so different. So I know you're saying maybe you're going to EDH, come to ITOP. It's on Friday. And what people really love is they get that giant toothbrush. Everyone's like a big giant toothbrush demo. Everybody gets one. They get a chair side box. They get an electric toothbrush. But it's individually trained oral prophylaxis. So individually trained oral prophylaxis, like showing your patients how to do home care. But that's the foundation of our company is ITOP. It's oral care and educating others on how to prevent oral care. So we consider those who attend ITOP for working with us because again, like the foundation of our company is education. It's driven by education. And if you don't know the foundation of our education and like what drives us, then this helps you like drive our mission forward. It's
Yeah.
a fantastic course, honestly. Like I
Yeah.
keep saying that for Curaprox, but it is a great course. And I'm not somebody who's good at lying. So it is a good
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. I mean, I think just from what we've talked about from start to finish is just the possibilities. And if you're someone who identifies, you're like, I really love the education aspect and you see the need for that. And it's something that we can all improve on. I think that this would be a great course. So now I'm like, okay, I got to go figure out
Yeah,
how to
you
get
should
signed up for this.
come.
Yeah, that's awesome.
No, it's fantastic. It's like, I would say more of a workshop, but it's really, the time goes by fast. It's 6 hours, but it goes by really fast.
Yeah.
It's a great course, but we're very much driven by education. Even if you see our social media, follow us on Instagram, please.
Yes. Yeah.
TikTok, but Curaprox USA. But yeah, we like do some like fun stuff, but a lot of it is still driven by education about like what are our patients' pain points and how can we help them solve those pain points. So we're always looking for creators. We just started working with creators, so anybody who does content creation, let me know. I just started taking over TikTok, but I've been doing Instagram for us for like a couple months. So, but yeah, there's also possibilities there. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, okay, you told us where we can find Curaprox on socials. Where can students find you if they have questions or maybe they resonate with your journey?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at the Latina RDH. So Latina, LATINA RDH. Or you can email me at amber.lovatos @Curaden, CURADEN.US. That's where you can email me. And if I don't respond, just send me another DM. I'm good about my work emails, not so good about my personal emails, and okay on my DMs. So I won't get offended if you send me two DMs.
Hey, just checking it again. I love it.
Yes, exactly.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for being here, for sharing so much about your personal journey and also educating us about Curaprox and new products. I love that. So we just appreciate your time and thank you again.